Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at all the crypto or some of the cryptocurrencies, at least the ones traded on Binance against the US fiat currency. And at the end of the video, I'm going to be talking about just general home storage and situations of the basics, as there will be a category 1 that could hit into Newfoundland and through parts of other Atlantic Canada provinces. And we'll talk about that at the end of this video. And for cryptocurrencies, like always, anything you do as far as any bets, any wagers, any trades, that's your own risk, own reward. For me, portfolio risk reward management is always job number one. So Ethereum has had a situation from the April Fool's rally where it has given back 3/4 of what it has managed to get within that rally. Of course, it's done so making a lower high from the original January lows, and then retracing lower highs and lower lows to the downside. This last one, like other cryptos, Bitcoin as one example, spent a little bit of time, not much in this case above the 18 average of highs, but after making the high, it has managed to quickly retrace, firmly, noticeably below the 18 lows, but at the same point it's still firmly and noticeably above the previous low area of about 405 up to about 422 at this stage. But it has had its correctionary move, and so many times in a bear market. How well is support going to come in when you resist lower? Of course, this was a market that just started off having a bullish run, thus neutrality correctionary move then, which resulted that into a bear market. After all, stage 1, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish support. Stage 3, come back to the band. Stage 4, break it. There's the break spot right there. And then you have the correctionary move. How well did support work here? Not the greatest. Correctionary move, support. Again, now the correctionary move. So if we head lower, I would not expect support to come at that area. So as far as reverting this downtrend, there's been several lower highs. It's only went to stage 1, band flatten out. This rally going above like the 494, I mean, that's not big enough. This is totally where you use the three bears philosophy, where if it's too small, it doesn't count. You'd have to see at least go up to about 508-ish area. A noticeable move above the 18, sort of like back here when price bottomed 638 and the 18 lows at 695. That was noticeably below it to make it count. It wasn't too big by any means. It was a little lower than big, but not low enough where I would consider that leg lower just right to establish support. So it's got a long ways to go. Of course, when we look at this, say, on a 1 hour time frame, we can see that it's just been going down, down, and down. It's having its first decent correctionary move, and it's still not the greatest of ones so far. All it has done is resist it once and come back to it again. But since it left that point at around 478 down to, of course, 439, and the bears at this time frame are in control of the market overall, it's just so indecisive, like a big battle between bulls versus the bears, because this is in a nice overall long uptrend over the entire year, definitely over the entire last couple of months. It's been in a downtrend, so you got a lot of times you look at indicators when it's a neutral bull versus bear fight, that the direction usually goes to the trend in which it came from. But this is a spot where there's multiple conflicts and saying, yeah, there's good reasons why you can say it go up because of the bullish move, but so many reasons why within a bullish move it's not a big deal for lower price action, and thus the next term move being a bear win. And of course that would be decent price lower, and I would even guess conservatively 360 would be the most conservative low I would look if it breaks down from here. But realistically, even coming down, maybe even coming closer to the low 200s, mid 200s, like 230, 250 is a more realistic level for where it would move down towards. And that's, of course, if it breaks down and you see it going below here, you're looking at realistic targets. You have big volatility. It went from 880 before down to 377, losing greater than 50% or even 60%-ish, 64, 65, in some cases 70% plus, is just part of this game. Extremely volatile. And when you got this volatility, you can let it scare you. You can accept it and just watch major variance in portfolio swings, and you can profit from it if you are able to, of course. And let's move on to the next one. We have Dash, which after this up run has been noticeably in a bear market. We can see where stage 4 breaking level of support happened at about 320 or 332, because you have band flattening out, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And it meant that if you look at trading strategies, as long as you don't get shaken out on a move up to this correctionary move, that you're in a winning position now. Or if you're looking for, okay, I see this happening, I see this down here, you're hoping for a small rally. So anything that you picked off in here to short or to put a sell time in has been working out for you. And of course, this is in a downtrend. It has already broken support, so it's in market status of making new leg lower. If it doesn't go down much from here or anymore, and this would be an interesting failed breakdown, but you'd obviously from here on the weekly chart, I'd be expecting, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit more leg room down by looking at this, especially when I look at the daily term time frame, and I see since the April Fool's rally has been over here that all these correctionary moves, and you can see the same thing in here and how well support acts every single time it has its correctionary move. So you leave here, you leave in here, and now, oh, we got the statement that it's looking to leave this to the downside. It could be that failed breakdown, but the indicators are showing that it's stating that it's looking to leave it. And of course, when you talk about that, you're looking at making a new leg below this level. And just like Ethereum, as far as it's reverting the trend to the upside, all it's been able to do within its correctionary moves to the 18, and it's only done it now for the first time, is have band flatten out. So therefore, it still hasn't established any level of resistance or done a stage 2. During these declines, the band remained in a declining mode, so it stayed in a very heavy bearish status, and it's had this is a little bit of a breather. So therefore, based on its bearish move and the fact that it looks as if it's now in the early stages of moving below there, and if you want to wait, and in some cases some people would rather wait for a clear break below here, because this area could still in fact hold as support. So it's a little bit of a cost to short below or around 200 compared to current price at 222, or to sell at that level depending on how one would play. Then there you get better confirmation. Not only that, but you also have a better chance of getting in and out of a play pretty good, because if you notice the price is below 200, then don't be surprised if it's decently below that within the next many of hours or just a handful of days. Litecoin, similar thing. It's this is the second time within its from its April Fool's rally in which it's had the band flatten out, with the start of June being the first one. But this level of support on the way down, and then this one, then here. If we go down further, it'd be here. And as far as where this has come from, it's been in a great up move, but it's been such a great move that any price correction that even goes to 20 doesn't kill or doesn't turn the long-term status into a bullish maneuver. Getting price below here pretty much exits its long-term bullish status. This area here is very neutral. Thus, it's not a surprise given back a 61.8%. And just quick look at this, it'd be a little under 20. So could it lose 3 times its value, a bit more? It could. But because of the nature of the extreme volatility, is it possible to go from 20 and then back up to previous high? Well, yeah. And then would it be possible to break previous high and have enormous numbers? Well, given the volatility of the nature, you would only expect it to be very enormous if such a case exists. And here we have NEO, which had from its April Fool's rally, it's had stage 1 band flatten out. Pretty much did so with the move to the 18 highs on 2nd of July. This was a big enough move for stage 2, established out of resistance. And it's stage 3, it's right back to the band. So if it rallies and gets above here, we see it at around a break of 45, even 44 and a half, 44 and a half. I would say it's now in that of a bull market. But market analysis states if you make a nice bullish move like this where you do well with the 18, having a move like this is doing well, and you fail its correctionary move, which it's having now. 18 is what I look to see who's winning the test, and having a move like this is about as deep as you'd want to go. You need to see it hold and stay above this. If I'm seeing weakness amongst here, price action in the 30, 25 area, I'm going to be expecting that we're going to be making a new leg lower. And as I mentioned, every time you come back to a key area in a bear market after having an 18 test, you don't expect a good chance of having support. Technically speaking, Ethereum Classic's in a bull market, although it might be a short-lived one. For stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. So therefore, it barely got past that level. It made the 18 go in a nice rising pattern after having several days staying above it. And now price action is hovering in near the 18 average. So a big, interesting level. In bull markets, you expect to have decent legs higher. So having just this is not what you would consider a bull run, thus intensifying what a failed breakout would be if this thing ends up failing from here. When you see a situation, though, if it bottoms in this area and it starts to have some nice momentum that you can see clearly on the shorter term time frames, you will use the 3-hour as an example here, where you have something in the, let me even use a 6-hour. Let's do 400 minute. Okay, a situation in here, you see it well below the 18. So you let this settle down in a bit. Maybe it comes down to 18 comes down in here, price action, and then you just wait for some sort of decent setup, and then you're confident that in this new bull market, because after this support test, it has its leg higher, bull markets make higher lows. So here would justify a higher low from this main move, breakout move here, with key lows of course being these two. Thus you would expect it to be significantly higher than here, but even still higher than this point, whereas any moves down here, if this is where it bottoms, then technically speaking that would still make it a playable spot where bull markets do what they do, make higher highs and higher lows. BNB, an interesting one because you really don't have an April Fool's rally here. This thing got going, it got going really good. From a buck and change up to well into the 20s, now at $12. It already had a significant price correction down to the $5 change mark and has done very well since. What makes this a very interesting coin on a fundamental level is you are required to own this coin to get half off on commissions for what I like to call rake, as far as what you give up every time you make a trade. So to get 0.05%, you need to have the Binance coin to pay it. So that forces people to at least buy it just to have it. So it gives it a case use situation, and as traders are entering the crypto space, then that's going to only make this go higher. Is this possible that this thing can have enormous gains after it? Well, that's the cool thing about cryptos. You'd have to think that if it's possible for Bitcoin to go to 100,000 and Litecoin to go into 4-digit territory, that this could very easily move into not only 3-digit territory, but firmly into the 3 digits as well. This correctionary move, it's got a point where we've had some key support at 745 and 576. So these are areas that when it had extreme volatility, It lets me know different areas where you're more likely to see on any type of capitulation style moves within its volatility for it to go there. I say within the volatility because you notice this went from like 24 down to 5 in only a quick period of time, January 1st through February the 7th, so a little over 1 month time. Now it has not managed to go anywhere near the previous high. And all the corrections haven't been that deep or that volatile compared to where it was before. And it's still got a long ways to go just to get to those points. It could be possible that if Bitcoin goes to 3,000, that this either makes it to this low or maybe barely pierces below it, thus maybe finding a low at around $4 in that range there, 4 and change. That could very easily be the case as well. In fact, it probably would be if Bitcoin were to do so, as it's probably for the most sense, it's going to follow the price of Bitcoin, and all of these coins I think should do such. But yeah, it's definitely got some possibilities for down moves lower when you see that you've established this level of support in this area. You've got it lower, so it's in the process of making a lower low. It's barely enough for me to say, okay, this was the low before, 1311. Now it's at 1280. I don't really care about the numbers. I care about the size differential. I would like to see it go down a little bit further, maybe close to 1215 or the low $12, as then it would be not only a test of this previous area in here, but significantly lower from the last key one that it had about 4 or 5 days ago. Okay, let's go over the other ones. Next one's relatively quickly. Qtone, we can see correctionary move, even this little bit of a fake out in here, and it's leaving the 18 average as well. When we scroll back, when you see these lines like you do in a couple days like this, you never know when the big lines, either up or down, are going to come into play. So if you have your buy orders ready, that's the only way you can ever take advantage of such a thing. EOS, very limited data, but enough where I can see within this correctionary move that had 6 days consecutively supporting and resisting the 18 average of highs, with the first half of that time being support, the last half of it here being resistance. And the last 2 days here, the big moves have obviously not found support at the 18 lows. That's the spec at this area. And like I've been stating, when you have this move, what kind of support do you normally have here? Well, it's in that test right now of possibly supporting it. But in bear markets, you don't usually expect that to be the case. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was further downside action here. Not much data with ONT, but what I can see here is that this level of key support at 414 has been broken. It's really tough to see how well of a breakout it is, but I'd have to think that at 376 and a low at about 365, there should be a little bit more downside action, but it is doing what you expect, not to have much support at this level. You're in a bear market. I guess it's barely enough where if it bottoms from here, you can easily draw the line, but it's still difficult to do in the early stages. These charts will look so much better as we head into the over the next like 80, 90, 100 days later when it gets more data. For now, you can still use this for like trading like on the 1 hour and such, but again, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Here is IOTA. Again, not much data, but we can see after this run up, stage 1 bent and flatten out, stage 2 established resistance, stage 3 isn't going so well, which is the coming back to the band. It entered it and it resisted the 18 highs. It's leaving it. It's left the 18 lows. So this is the early stages where if you want to be early in the short action, this is a time where you see, oh, okay, now it's below this 18. And it's probably going to break below this low, which is 89 cents. So you'd be looking at a decent leg lower, maybe looking at 80 cents or high somewhere in the 70s. But it's showing signs that has got a decent probable cause now. Look, as we stand in that, or as I look at this right now. Looking at Ripple next, correctionary move. Difficult to say if that's established resistance. Very close. One could say yes, but however the case may be, it had supported the 18 average of lows on July the 6th, and now it's just breaking through there. Again, just like the last chart, this is the early stages of it looking to leave the band. And this is, of course, the bears are in charge of this market. We'll see if it plays out or not, but to me it looks favored that further downside action is going to come into place. Stellar, it's not quite, it's to me not really a break of the 18 lows, although technically it is, or it's extremely early in that process. I like to see it on the early stages for high concern to be at around the 18.5 mark. But just like any of these moves, definitely stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 in place. It hasn't even attempted to do a stage 4, which is get above the 22. And anytime you have a correctionary move like this, if it fails, you expect a decent sized leg lower. Last time support was in at 20 cents and a bit more. And then it, of course, fell down to 17. So maybe it might make a move to about 14 to 15 cents if it breaks below that support mark. And then again, I want to see a clear break above like this high for me to see that I can give it a bullish buzz, if you will. And the final one is Cardano, or ADA, which after it having stage 2, it's now several days within the 18, now leaving it very, very early spot. If it comes down here further, again, I don't like the odds too well that 11 cents is going to be any support on this time frame. And now let's talk about Nova Scotia, but in particular Newfoundland. And it says hurricane to hit Canada, tropical storm Chris likely to intensify as it heads north. Tropical storm Chris, sitting virtually still a couple hundred miles off the Carolinas, is expected to become a hurricane on Tuesday and resume its journey towards the northeast, according to the National Hurricane Center. And I'm just going to slowly scroll down, show you the mathematical path, which means a little bit of Nova Scotia on here, as well Newfoundland Friday morning. So Thursday night probably in Nova Scotia through the morning on Newfoundland. And according to this, we are likely to get winds at about 130 kilometers per hour, which is equivalency to 80 miles an hour, which is category 1 hurricane winds, the weakest of the hurricane categories. And that's about the largest winds I've ever been associated with. And it's not fun, but there's no need to have to panic and just head inbound because of something like this. And I think everyone in this area would be used to storms of that nature as well. But what I have a huge belief on, and as far as preparation is concerned, how many days can you go without hydro? Knowing that the two ways of effectively having resources is what you have stockpiled and planned in a situation for such. For if you're days without hydro, you got time to do what you need to do. If you run out of water and you have to go to a local area to get some, which is something if you have to do, you have to do. Well, then you got plans to do such. For myself, I'm never, ever without 10 liters of drinking water available to me. And when I get my drinking water, I get it from a well, which then goes into a kettle to get boiled, which then goes through just a basic filter, which then goes into wherever it needs to go, whether it be long-term storage or current use. And then the long-term ones, you refill them a couple times a year. And any type of, how many days of food can you go without having any access to your stove, even your microwave, any of your cooking devices? What cooking devices do you have that you can use either on backup power? That's another key one right there. Or without even needing any power. And fire, the discovery of fire is the big one when it comes to cooking. And the discovery of fire is a long time ago as well. And of course, those are just basic strategies needed, because in times like this, you could have your hydro be out for several days. And having plans for those types of situations, I think, is always the most important. So you need your foods, water supplies, any type of medicine, and like cleaning supplies, all those different. When I say cleaning supplies, I'm just thinking of like wipes, like paper towels and different medical wipe or medical sheets. They're the ones that are, I don't know what you call them, but just having a whole bunch of stuff like that available for those types of situations. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, the reason why I boil it, I should have stated, the water that is because by doing so, that gets rid of a whole bunch of nasty stuff that I heard throughout the internet. So I figure, you know what, it's not like that's hard to do. It's actually really easy to do. And that's why I do it. So after it gets boiled, I let it sit for 2 to 3 hours at least, and then I can then transport it from there. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.